What is slavery? Slavery is known as a condition in which individuals are owned by others who control their living and work situation. To be a slave, you are classed as property and are forced to do manual labor for the price of nothing. Slavery took place dating back as far as 3500 BC in Mesopotamia, leading into what we know as slavery now. Considered to start in the 1500s, African Americans were brought ashore to the British colony to soon be pronounced slaves. Starting slavery was the West African slave trade. The slave trade was the transportation by slave traders of various enslaved African people, mainly to the Americas. It all started when the Portuguese went to West Africa in search of gold in the 15th century. On the way back to Portugal, gold wasn't the only thing they brought back as cargo. During their trip, they obtained to capture and enslave 10 Africans. Later on, many other kingdoms, including Portugal, were finally able to go overseas and reach Africa. They then began to kidnap many more and take them from the west coast of Africa back to Europe. One of the main reasons for slavery was to get rid of one's hard work. So, for example, in England, there was a demand for laborers for the sugar, tobacco, and cotton plantations, since England depended on it. Upon this request, the English faced a shortage of white servants and were too fearful of servant revolt, so they resorted to the idea of enslaving Africans. To some European nations, slavery brought many economic benefits. Since slavery became one of Europe's largest and most profitable industries, the economy improved and more jobs became available for the Europeans. Slaves provided the labor power necessary to settle and develop the New World. Starting from the beginning of slavery, moving forward, the amount of slave labor would increase rapidly. For example, this is a document made by Franklin W. Knight showing the sugar production and slave population over the years, starting from 1712 to 1817. As an African during this time, there was a human cost of being a slave. Many slaves lost their lives and were torn away from their families. They were dehumanized and abused by their slave keepers. For disobedience or perceived infractions, they would be shackled, beat, mutilated, branded, and or imprisoned. Sometimes the slave owners would even abuse just to assert dominance. 7 months after the Civil War, the 13th Amendment took effect, ending slavery in the United States. Though slavery is abolished throughout the U.S. and other nations, illegal practices are still held around the world. In order to stop these unconsensually brutal acts, I believe that people should become more aware of human trafficking and modern-day slavery. People should stop buying from manufacturers using forced labor. Some of these include Abercrombie & Fitch, Adidas, BMW, and others. Though these are only some ways to help with modern-day slavery, there are still many other things that you could do as a person to help stop modernizing something that should have stayed abolished. But in the meantime, that is all I have for now. Thank you for listening.